Hello everyone and welcome back to the Saints VD channel for Southampton content for our first day of our Christmas Fanvent calendar. It's going to be a pretty good start because I've got the Athletics' very own ANKA. Carl, thank you very much for coming.
Pleasure.
Well,
hello.
coming, I came to you, but anyway, coming on the channel. But yeah, how are you for a start?
I'm alright. We're recording this on a Friday lunchtime. I'm feeling pretty good. I've been looking at a massive spreadsheet about Southampton sort of play again and being like, what's going on here?
Yeah, we are filming this before the Watford game. This will come out on Sunday, so we would have had a big result, or hopefully, when this comes out, and then another big game in a couple of weeks. But have you sort of how do I put it? Like, have you embraced the club? I guess in a weird way.
How do I put this? When Southampton have a bad result, it spoils my weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you're a fan essentially.
I suppose so. There was a moment, obviously. If you follow me on Twitter at all, you may have seen I'm not gonna hide the fact that my original club that I support from when I was a baby was Manchester United, because you can tell from my very strong Manchester United accent. But they're obviously the one home point Southampton have got so far was against Manchester United.
So how did it come about? Because the Athletic, it almost felt like it came out of nowhere when it came to sort of Premier League coverage, because suddenly you're seeing all these top journos covering individual clubs. You see all these advertisements around London on the tube and that. Why Southampton? Where did that come from?
So the Athletic launched a couple of years ago in Chicago.
Sure.
And then they moved their head office to San Francisco, and the entire thing there is bespoke local journalism, but with high quality feel.
Yeah, of course.
The idea is you have a journalist embedded in every city, or at least as close to every single city, and while they're not writing every single day, they are spending that extra time to get the best possible article they can do. I was freelancing for them last season, covering Manchester United, and that was a sort of weird. You really want me to cover Manchester United when I live in London? No, we want you to do this because you were a bit of a weirdo, and we figure whatever you write about, you'd be able to find it in an interesting way. Hopefully Southampton fans find the way I write is odd in a nice way.
Yeah, sure.
And then season finished. They were planning stuff at the Athletic for a bit, and I got a phone call from an unknown phone number saying, "How do you feel about working full time?" I went, "Sure." And he said, "How do you feel about relocating?" I went, "Oh, you're going to be Manchester United." I went, "We're not going to be Manchester United." "How do you feel about Southampton?" I went, "That's interesting." I went, "Yep, no one knows where Southampton going to finish. All the youth players have gone through Southampton." And he said, "Worst come to worst, you can pretend you're in northern France from the beach," is what he said. So I turned up to Southampton on the late bit of July and going, "Oh cool, where's the beach?" And someone went, "Bournemouth." Like, oh, very good.
Yeah, well, but I guess we have to talk about the season, because we were getting close to the halfway stage and it's not really gone to plan for some fans. Other fans sort of expected us to be in a relegation battle. It was very mixed going into the season over the summer. You know, we were all very excited about Ralph Hasenhüttl having a full season, full pre-season and a transfer window, but sort of covering Southampton, going to every single game and writing reports, how have you found it?
Interesting. So at the start of the season, I predicted Southampton to finish 12th. I remember getting to the training ground at Staplewood, and I told this to the media person. I went, "Oh, well, thank you very much." And it was really surprising.
Yeah, sure.
And I was like, "Really?
Yeah.
Like 12th?" Maybe that's me again, as like my previous top 6 life, thinking, "Sure, I'm finishing 12th." And obviously, I was watching fan forums and whatnot, and I think everyone was sort of expecting between 9th and 14th.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, definitely.
Everyone was sort of like, "Yeah, we're not going to have a relegation battle, but Southampton will be comfortably in the best case scenario top half, or worst case scenario top half of the bottom half." And I think everyone was thinking that. First game of the season, it's a wonderful August. Starts raining in Burnley, and you just get Sean Dyche 3-0, and you're going, "Oh, it's fine." You just sort of
that coach journey was not fun, honestly.
No, I've been needing to do some coach journeys with
yeah, that would be worth doing.
So if you know how to do that, please let me know.
Yeah,
so I can get signed
definitely.
Up. It's really interesting watching Southampton, because there's a very clear tactical view of how Ralph Hasenhüttl wants to play football, and how Ralph Hasenhüttl wants to play football is probably going to be the future of football. So, we're about to start a new decade, and I'm sure the majority of football that is played in the 2020s will in some form involve high pressing, will in some form involve midfield traps, and will some form involve collective pods and quarters and overloads in wide areas, and try and play a game of football where I'm trying to cut off the way you're passing. I'm also trying to force you to pass in ways you don't want to do it, and also I'm trying to, when you do that, I'm going to set a trap so I win the ball up really, really quickly.
Right,
Just the idea that, you know, no one wants to play with an orthodox number 10,
Sure.
but everyone can be a number 10 if you press properly. That's fine.
Yeah.
And Southampton want to play that football, and there are large parts of, if you look at a Southampton 90 minutes, Southampton will do that for maybe, the problem is Southampton will probably only do that for 25. And then the other 60, 70 minutes, you're seeing, oh.
Well, I think when we knew Ralph Hasenhüttl was going to be the manager for the full season, or well, we'd expect him to be the manager for the full season. I think a lot of people made comparisons to his RB Leipzig side.
Yeah.
Everyone saw how successful he was in the Bundesliga. You know, taking a promoted side to second is just unheard of, really. And I think some people sort of try to analyse the football and get really excited, but we haven't really seen it, because they were an attacking side who sometimes sacrificed the attack to concede, but knowing that they would counter or have a shot and then hopefully score. But we've not been scoring enough, and we've not been conceding. We've just been conceding too many. So, did you ever look into RB Leipzig at all? Like,
yeah, I watched.
When you tried to sort of think about how Southampton were going to play.
I watched loads of RB Leipzig. Athletic subscribers will see I wrote a piece called "The Road to 4-2-2-2," which is Ralph's most popular formation so far. It's the one he used the most when he was in Germany. So Ralph primarily wants to use a 4-2-2-2. He sometimes uses a 4-3-3, but since he's been at Southampton, he's been using 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, mostly because, unfortunately, I don't think he believes he can play forward at the back, because I don't think he trusts all of his centre backs. And I watched quite a lot of RB Leipzig, and it was one of those moments where you're watching, going, "This is really good football." And you're like, wait, who are these players? And you read up, Naby Keita, it's Timo Werner. It's just some of the, if not players who are currently in the Champions League,
Sure.
but players who have been bought by the Champions League clubs because they were so good at Red Bull. And you go, is the system fantastic, or was it the fact that you had generational talent playing it? I don't know the question yet. I think Southampton are in this weird case of, I describe it as a bit like an orchestra.
Sure.
So when things are going well for Southampton and they're having that really good 25 minutes, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I understand the music you're trying to play. Just every now and again there's a flat note, like a So if you take any Southampton performance and it's like, okay, cool, so you're having a really good 15 minutes, you're pressing well, oh, James Ward-Prowse is cutting off that passing channel between the left back and left centre back, oh, there's the first corner, oh, the opposition scored. That's a flat note. And the problem is, they'll be trying to play a bit of music, like, you know, just sort that bit out, and then I can enjoy the pieces of music.
Yeah, I think it's, as a spectator, it's been frustrating. So many scenarios this season where we've played so well, and then something bad happens, and then confidence drops. I mean, the first 3 minutes against Everton were great.
Yeah.
Until sort of Walcott danced around, won a corner, and then Tom Davies scored, and then after that sort of went down. And I think there's still problems from 2 seasons ago, you can argue 3 seasons ago, when Claude Puel struggled after the League Cup final and ultimately got sacked. But what Pellegrino has done to this squad, I think, because we've still got quite a few of those players, the mentality is just shot. And I'm sure you can see it covering that this isn't a confident side.
Mm-mm.
You know, we got that win at Brighton, then another win in the Cup, and then a good point against Manchester United, and you thought that was going to be the start of something. Win at Sheffield United, like, this is great, this is going to plan. And then I think the Bournemouth game, and then all the other home performances, you can see, especially at home, how poor their confidence are. Like, how is it to, like, what's it like to see a team at home struggle? Like, you'd expect them to have good home form.
So the stat now is Southampton have won 15 of their last 63.
Yeah, 62 or 63.
63 games at home. That is a preposterous stat. Obviously, the Athletic are American, so every now and again, one of the American journalists asks me, "Oh, cool, that's a really cool stat," and I have to really explain why that stat is weird, because there's no promotion or relegation in most American sports.
Sure.
You're not supposed to only win 15 out of 60 home games, right? In English football, you're not supposed to do that and stay in the Premier League. You're supposed to get relegated, and then you get relegated, and then you build up your home wins because you're playing in a lower league, and you build up your confidence. it's a preposterous stat. You can't do that. It's like, what? Why? How? Why are you doing this? And I think what happens is there's this very it's like concentric circles of pain behind the home form. So you've got a Southampton team that is quite short on confidence playing at home, and they want to be like, right, okay, so let's not open up too much. Let's play the most effective form of Southampton football, which is essentially counter-punching. Well, there's the talk of the Southampton way in playing passing attractive football. Southampton, I mean, this season especially, always better away from home because they're just like, right, we're going to wait for you to make a mistake and then we're going to pounce. You can't really do that at home because the home fans, you pay a lot of money, you don't want to see your team sit back and do nonsense. So Southampton want to start games you'd like Southampton to start quite quickly in the first 15 minutes. And now Ralph has said he wants Southampton to start quickly at home. But what you get is a team that not quite sure of themselves, that spend maybe 15 minutes figuring out what they want to do at home. The home crowd then is really, really quiet because they're going, lads, sort it out. And as it gets quieter, the team is less confident. Throughout this entire time period, the opposition is going, oh, we figured out where your weakness is.
Yeah.
Then it's basically the opposition will have a chance because unfortunately Southampton give up a lot of chances. And if the opposition score from that chance, it's all going to go downhill. And if they don't, well, I'm still doing this in the press box.
Yeah, and I think, like you just said, 15 home wins in the last, so what's that, 3 years probably?
Yeah.
2-3 years.
Southampton fans buying a season ticket are buying a season ticket knowing that they're probably going to see their team win 5 times.
Yeah.
At home,
And
which is ridiculous. Why are you buying season tickets?
It's almost cheeky from the board selling half season tickets now. Like 10 games. My mate's just got one and I'm just like, why?
I mean,
Why?
fair play to anyone who buys a season ticket. It's a big investment, and obviously football's a community thing, and I would never begrudge anyone for wanting to invest in their team, and a football club lives and dies by its support.
And I think this is it's a particular example of how much a football club affects the community, because it's a one football club city. Obviously we've got a couple of neighbours in sort of nearby cities and on the south coast, but everyone in Southampton supports Southampton. When the team's doing well, the city lifts, which is probably why it's been a bit grey.
I don't know. Recently, this is the thing. It's nearly December. I have not seen what this town looks like when it's won a home game, a home Premier League game.
Yeah, sure.
I saw one pre-season game when they beat.
Was it Cole?
Yes, come on, which was fun. People went out to the pub. I went, this is quite fun. I would like to see this again. And it's just been months of there are some really sad people at this pub right now.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. I think expectations just drop because it's not just been this season. It's been the last 2 or 3. I think since Maurizio Pellegrino, it's just gone downhill. And I think Ralph was an ambitious appointment, and on paper it looks like it's going to work. Hopefully, I'm still hoping. Some fans are saying to sack him now, terminate his contract, and bring in a sort of Sam Allardyce figure to save.
You want to do that? You want to do that?
Your face is literally my opinion on it. But do you think that would be the right move?
No, I don't think the club officials, those higher up, believe that sort of thing would be the best thing to do. I think Ralph Hassel is. It feels weird to call him a talented young manager when he's in his 50s, but he's a really good manager. He's got Champions League experience. He's one of those managers that is probably one of the better managers in the bottom half of the Premier League, to the point that you can ask some very, very serious questions about why he's managing a team in the bottom half of the Premier League.
It's a project.
It's a project.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going well at the moment, but I think what's particularly interesting is when you watch enough fan forums and you look into enough discussions about Southampton, especially from those. So what I found particularly interesting was Ross Wilson, the now departed director of football and football operations. He said Ralph Hassel's the best coach Southampton have had since Ronald Koeman. And there's this constant, if you talk to enough people, they'll go, yep, so we had Atkins, then we had Pochettino, then we had Ronald Koeman. And now Ralph Hassel arrived. And it's like, okay. You're skipping some things.
Yeah, it's not.
You don't want to talk about certain other individuals, which I think, if that's your approach, and if that's how you want to be and go, right, we've got Ralph now and we want to stick with Ralph, you should probably keep at it, because that squad, it's one of the largest squads in the Premier League. It's bloated. It's got a lot of players that play in similar positions that aren't getting enough game time. It's got a lot of players right now who aren't quite on loan, but possibly could go on loan if only to get game time. There's a lot of money and wages as well that is in difficult scenarios, I'd describe. Sure. And you need consistency to do that. You need someone to be there for a season and a half to go, right, I need to make sure I know everyone at this club. Everyone needs to understand what we're going for, and if they don't want to do this, then unfortunately they'll have to leave, or we need to get this in, or we need to get that in. And you can't keep doing that if you keep chopping and changing, because one only has to look at Everton and how Everton went for 3 or 4 seasons, including Sam Allardyce, to see that their squad is just a bit of a, wait, what?
Yeah, 100%. But you spoke about the fans forum there and the board. So Matt Crocker came in as the new director of football this week. What have you heard at all, if anything, about him? You know, is there a plan being laid out, or is it just a case of he's going to come in and try and steady the ship until the summer, and then, you know, dead weight that needs to go and should have gone 2 seasons ago will finally be let go?
So the interesting thing about Matt Crocker is he's former Southampton, so he was head of the academy between 2006 and 2013.
The best time the academy.
Right. Yeah, best time the academy had. He helped bring through Shaw, Ox, Lallana,
Bale.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's just crazy.
When you talk about the Southampton way is in effect what Matt Crocker helped do. He was so good at that job, he went to the FA, and the FA went, right, how do we do what Southampton did? And he went, well, behold, here is England DNA, which is, you know, in 2017 in the summer, England won the Under-20 World Cup. They got the semi-final of the Under-21s Euros. They won the Under-19 Euros as well.
There's been a lot of success in the last couple of years.
Because of what Matt Crocker did at the FA, which is this England DNA thing with basically everyone from the youth level from Under-23s down plays at the same formation. All the coaches are meant to be hired so they all have similar values and similar approaches to playing football. This also affects the women's team to the Under-23 level as well. So it's kind of no surprise that Gary Neville wore a waistcoat at the World Cup, because Gareth Southgate did too. And it's that sort of concept of if you create greater cohesion between all the youth levels, it means that the jump between each level and how you jump on to eventually senior level is much easier. So Matt Crocker was in charge of elite player development at the FA for 7 years basically, and now he's gone back to Southampton. And while he has the same job as Ross Wilson, which is director of football operations, his job role will be closer to what Les Reed did. So he will not. What I understand is the intention is to bring in someone who will be a more I'd say traditional. The interesting thing is a director of football is one of those job titles that could mean anything depending on who's in it. So they will be bringing in someone who's in charge of transfers and player trading. So it's not just transfers as in who you bring in, but transfers as who you bring out, and also player trading as in, like, it's a really, really hard science of when you renew someone's contracts. Because, for example, there is a interesting scenario involving Fraser Forster, who was, I believe, is one of the highest paid players at Southampton Football Club.
Yeah, I think he is.
And there is loads of, why did we pay Fraser? Southampton fans are, why did you pay Fraser Forster so much money? From what I understand is it was a calculated risk from those higher up at Southampton. I went, right, at this point in time, Fraser Forster is phenomenal goalkeeper. He's number 2 in England. He's only behind Joe Hart in terms of the England role. There's also rumours that David De Gea might leave Manchester United. So let's increase his contract. Let's try and get him tied down, get him on a good wage and whatnot, so he wants to stay. And also, if at some point someone tried to buy him, we could reasonably go, well, he's on this many wages, so you have to pay more money. And that's that tiny little bit about contract stuff and whatnot that you need an expert to do. And it's something that doesn't really get discussed if you're playing a game of FIFA 20, doesn't really get discussed if you're playing a game of Football Manager. It's one of those things that you have to be in and experience at player trading to know when to do that and have it pay off really, really well, or when to do it and pay off not so well. Daniel Levy is particularly good at this. So Crocker will be doing Les Reed's job and will be in charge of the academy, will be in charge of oversight, will be in charge of essentially, right, let's make to come up with a Southampton way and make sure we will pull in one direction for the
Bring
next
the club back to its roots to an extent.
4 or 5 years. So
Yeah.
whatever Matt Crocker is going to do, I imagine will have come to fruition in the next 3 years rather than the next 3 months.
Yeah, it's a
And I
big-
think
big
someone else will be coming in quite soon, quite
Okay.
shortly in terms of player transfers. From what I understand, Ralph Hassel said he did play some role in Crocker's appointment, and I think they're all going to get on.
But that tells you that Ralph's here to stay. You know, there's no intention of sacking him. You know, if he's having a say in the director of football appointment, you know,
I mean, they'll be working very closely, talking.
Well,
every single
they
day.
have to.
Yeah. So the fan from the start of the season, it was Martin Semmens, Ross Wilson, Ralph Hassel, and
Did Højbjerg went to one of them?
that went to another, and it was Nelly Gao. And I believe there was one other individual, and they all talked about the concept of the governance board.
Right.
So it was Ralph Hassel, Ross Wilson, Martin Semmens, and I believe one other individual whose name escapes me. And they all talk about how they take care of the day-to-day running, and then every now and again they'll talk to Gao and Gao Jisheng and discuss further things. And when they were talking about day-to-day runnings and whatnot, what became very apparent is they've got a list of, well, 2 things became apparent. Ross Wilson mentioned this 15 million sort of spending cap, as it were, on transfers, where basically if Southampton want to buy a player and that player is, we want to buy player X, and the club goes, this player will cost more than 15 million. Everyone else up and goes, whoa, let's wait a minute. Are you sure you want to buy this player? Which is interesting. So that was one thing that came about. Another thing that came about is that there is a list of 10 commandments that a player has to tick off a certain amount of criteria and attributes that a player that has to tick off all 10 of these attributes before they are considered to come into Southampton. And this list was created by Rev Hassel. And this list exists and has been given to Martin Semmens and basically went, I want players that can do this, this, and this. I've not seen the list. I'm going to guess on 2 or 3 things.
It's not framed in the training ground.
No, it's not framed in the training ground. However, I'm going to guess certain criteria in it. So I'm making a guess that Ralph Hassel will prefer players under the age of 24. I would assume he wants players that are tactically erudite, who have played and capable of playing in 2 or 3 different formations. I'm going to assume he wants players that are 2-footed. I'm going to assume he wants players that are quite athletic as well. So, if not rapid, but mobile.
Sure.
And also have necessary stamina to cover a large amount of the pitch. When you consider James Ward-Prowse covers around about 11 kilometres a game.
Yeah.
And how much pressing as well.
Yeah.
Ralph Hassel probably wants a player who can run at least 8 kilometres a game. Every single time. Which is one of those things that football's run nowadays.
Yeah. We talked about Fans Forum and how Nelly Gao was at the Fans Forum at the beginning of the summer. I remember that one. It was actually quite good to see her. What sort of contact is there? There's none. Is that your sort of understanding? There's no contact with the owner. Mr. Gao doesn't say anything. Like, you just don't. We don't hear.
Oh, he
from him.
does. I wouldn't say there's none. I'd say Nelly Gao lives in London.
Okay.
And there is the governance board of those individuals I discussed. And Nelly Gao also serves on that governance board, and they run the club day to day. There's also the commercial director and another individual who more or less gave the thumb up to Southampton's women's team as well.
Sure.
So there's that governance board, and they take care of Southampton Football Club every single day, and they are constantly in contact with Nelly Gao, who's in London, and they discuss things. My understanding is Nelly Gao speaks a good amount of English.
Okay.
I'd say she speaks better English than I speak Chinese. And
Okay,
I'll be very nice there. My understanding about Nelly's father, Gao Jisheng, I hope I've pronounced that correctly. He lives in China right now. He's a billionaire, owner of Nanda Construction. The majority of his money comes from construction. He owns 80% of the club. He has an option to buy the remaining 20% from Catherine Lieber at the end of the season. I've got a hunch he will exercise that right and buy all of the club at the end of the season, if only the way the current changes are coming in.
Despite reports this week or last week that he's thinking about selling his stake.
That came out of nowhere, didn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of just came out of the blue, and then there was no quote,
No,
which is when Gao's going to sell the club. According to whom?
yeah. But can you understand frustrations with some of the fans when it comes to maybe a lack of investment in the summer? Well, we spent 60 million, which is is quite a lot for a club of our stature. But when you look at I think the problem is when you look at the other teams spending that sort of money, they've spent it on better players. So I guess it's a recruitment thing. But can you understand why there's frustrations with Gao?
Frustration, absolutely. Oh, well, so I have seen Gao once.
Okay.
He was present at Staple Training Ground before on the third. So I'm at Staple Training Ground quite often for the press conferences and whatnot. And every now and again, if you stand long enough, someone will walk past. And I went, oh, there he is. That was notable because it was before a certain game at home against some top 6 opposition.
Yeah.
So I went, oh, okay, so he's probably here to go watch that game.
Yeah.
Cool. And he was very, very happy, in very good spirits, in a very nice suit. Loved everything he saw about Staplewood. And he doesn't give particularly many interviews, and I think what he has said, which is basically Southampton are not a pig to be fattened, runs through the entire club. There has been a lot of money spent at Southampton Football Club in the last 3 or 4 years on players that aren't in the current first team plans. And that's difficult. And if your ship is going like this, it takes a while to get the ship like this. I think there's a lot of money, over recent years especially, there's been a lot of money that's been spent on players that aren't in the first team plans.
Sure.
There was a particularly interesting instance where Russ Wilson more or less said they wasted 20 million on a player. He said there was one moment where the quote was, there was one point in particular where we short-circuited our own process. There was a player where we over-supported the manager. So the manager really definitely wanted a player that he previously worked for, and we over-supported the manager.
I wonder who that was.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? So I can definitely understand the frustration. So this was a question posed to Ross Wilson because they said, why aren't we spending money? And I think that the one that gets brought up often is the fact that Aston Villa spent 25 million, possibly 30 million on Tyrone Mings. And Aston Villa just got promoted and they're spending 20, 30 million on a centre back. Why have Southampton not spent any money on a permanent signing of a centre back in the summer? To which Russ Wilson gave that example of that player who, wink wink.
Yeah.
And I understand that frustration, and it's one of those interesting bits where if everyone is willing to spend 30 million on a player and you're only willing to spend 15 million because you're trying to right the ship, is that you standing still at a moment where everyone's speeding up? And if that happens, you end up dropping on the table. So I can understand that frustration, I understand that worry. And I think the answer to that, what we found at the end of the season, I think if money is spent in the January transfer window, it will probably be a bit more money than this 15 million. I don't want to call it a spending cap, but this sort of 15 million, are you sure thing.
Okay.
Because from a business sense of view, you'd much rather spend 40 million in January rather than lose 20 million in television rights at the end of the season. So that was a very interesting point to see. One thing I will say about the ownership in Gao is they seem to be really clever and risk averse.
Sure.
Very much. So you consider a previous, yes, you brought up Pellegrino, and you seem to think Pellegrino was the beginning of the end. But when it looked to be really, really bad, they brought in Mark Hughes. And Mark Hughes, I have no idea why Southampton gave him a permanent contract. But when Mark Hughes, when it looked like Mark Hughes wasn't working out, Southampton were pretty quick going, nope, and then plugging in Ralph Hassel.
That whole day was just crazy. He was sacked, Hasenhuttl was linked, next day he's appointed.
Yeah. And I think the ownership, while there are some interesting questions of what their plans are, I think one thing that we do know is they want the club to be self-sustaining, which is never a bad thing. It's never a bad thing for a club to be self-sustaining and not be saddled with loads and loads and loads of debt. And they seem to be particularly risk averse. Not in the we don't want to spend money or we don't want to do anything that's dangerous, but if we've made a bad decision, we will fix this quickly because we only want to make good decisions. Which, if you spend that out 2 or 3 seasons down the line, Southampton should be in a better place than they were 3 years ago.
Of course.
Hopefully.
But when you say, they'd rather spend £40 million as opposed to losing the £20 million of television rights. I guess that kind of leads me on to our final point about the next month.
Mm-hmm.
So, in your opinion, do you think the next run of fixtures could determine the fate of how the team does this season, or do you think it's still too early to?
Oh no, absolutely. This is it. This is the most important phase in Southampton's season, or most important phase in Southampton since last December, right?
Sure.
So Southampton had one of the worst starts in terms of fixture list, right? So the first 12 games, 8 of those 12 were teams that finished in the top half of last season. That is brutal. That is just, right, we've got to play City, United, Liverpool, Spurs, this one. You're like, oh God. At the start of the season, I said the best case scenario is Southampton start the season really, really well, press really well, and it goes amazing, you finish 9th. I said the worst case scenario is this fixture list and the kind of weird squad just all sort of falls up. So basically, you start the season really badly, you get beat up by everyone else, and at a time where you need to really like kick on and be super confident, you're just really tired and sad. And it seems as if Southampton are approaching worst case scenario.
Sure.
Yeah, Southampton need to start getting points and need to get out of the relegation zone before January.
Yeah.
And it's just a nice point in time to get out of the relegation zone, but also it's really important for the January transfer window. It's a lot harder to negotiate things like incoming players and outgoing players and loan deals and who wants to come in when you don't know what league you're going to be playing in next season.
Definitely.
It's a lot easier to be going, you should come to Southampton when your club is 13th or 14th, than going, you should come to Southampton when they're 18th.
Which is possible, we could go into the new year 13th, 14th. We put a few wins together. That's, we've had this conversation so many times sort of amongst the fan base, a couple wins still, and we will go up a good few places. And that's just why, obviously we're filming this before Watford. When you watch it, the Watford result, we'll know anyway.
I'm taking in 3 games. So Watford, Norwich, Newcastle, you beat all those 3. That's 9 points. That's taking points from teams that are in and around you. So it just means that if you can get to Boxing Day against Chelsea and you're hovering in the midpoint of the bottom half of the league table, it just makes negotiating stuff in January so much easier. It makes everything so much easier in terms of planning. It makes any of those players currently at Southampton who are worried about renewing their contract, it puts them at ease because they're going, oh hang on, I'm going this way rather than this way. And it makes, if you're talking to a player agent and that's got a really talented youth player and you're going, they should come to Southampton, it just makes it so much easier. It's like a threefold thing. You want to get as many points between now and January, so that way you can have a nice January.
Well, Carl, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Really interesting
Pleasure.
to hear from you as a sort of neutral, as a writer for The Athletic. Thank you very much.
Subscribe to The Athletic. Find them on Twitter. It's ANKAman616. ANKA spelled ANKA. And then
I will put it in the description.
Great.
All right,
excellent.
Thanks a lot.